Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode number 2 of Crossing the Line here on the Start Space Cast Twitch channel. My name is Eddie.
And I'm Tony.
We are back another week, number 2, so we're keeping our promise of being consistent and coming out with an episode every 2 weeks.
We finally did it.
Yet.
We did it.
And we are back with another show about board games and video games and other stuff. As you'll see this episode, other stuff is more important in this episode than it was in the last one.
True.
But we still have board games, we still have video games, and we're going to be talking about specifically this week artwork in those games. But first, let's say hi to Tony. How you doing, Tony?
All right.
Anything changed for you over the past 2 weeks? You doing all right? We have a live audience here, and they found that hilarious.
Yep. Mark is here again. There's the thumb. And his lovely wife, Emily.
Hi.
They're going to Portland tomorrow.
Woo!
Tony, I asked how you were doing, not how
I'm doing
many
great.
people we have in the room.
I'm doing great, man.
And what have you been playing recently? I mean, we haven't seen you in 2 weeks, on this show at least.
True. I have been doing some streams here and there. Not as many as I was hoping to, but you know, things come up and
Downer?
coming through with trying to be consistent and only halfway achieving that with this show. So,
What have you been playing?
League of Legends.
That's it, right?
Pretty much. No. Also been kind of looking into Hearthstone. Been wanting to kind of get into that. So I'm looking
we've
into
both
like
been playing.
cards and all that stuff. I know you just like asking me a question and cutting me off. Is the
Trying to have a
problem I'm
conversation
having
with
right
you, and you're making it very difficult to want to have a conversation with you in the first place, and then to actually do it on the second hand. But I'm trying to tell people that we are both sharing an interest in this game called Hearthstone, and you're refusing to. Fine, you know what? I'm not playing Hearthstone with you. How you like that? You keep playing League of Legends. You live your life how you want to live it.
I'm still gonna play Hearthstone.
Don't care. I have been playing a game. I was playing a lot of board games last week. No, 2 weeks ago. So the way that it works out is the day after we do Crossing the Line, I have my board game night. So I played some pretty cool board games. I played one called Navigador that is interesting and really. We're talking about artwork. We're talking about artwork this time. Really boring box art. Really boring theme. But it was in the top 100 of BGG, BoardGameGeek.com. So I bought it and tried it out.
Yeah.
Really, really liked it.
Cool.
I'm going to be doing a... next time I do reviews, I do the reviews every week of board games. I did Great Western Trail this last week. I'm going to do not a full review of Navigador because I haven't played it enough to really do a full review of it.
Mm-hmm.
But I want to do a sort of first look, like my first impressions of it, because I really liked it a lot. We added a little shelf here. That's new.
Eddie keeps going on about this shelf.
It's nice.
I'm sick of talking about it.
Where's he from, Tony?
Battlefield 1.
That's right. Where's he from?
Titanfall 2.
Where's that guy from? Austria. Yeah, board games. This is way. Just so you know, this is just as exciting as the guy with the gun or the giant mech down there. He's a waiter, so you know he's on top of it. You don't know what those people in the background, what their story is. They're probably spies or assassins. Yeah, so I've been playing some cool board games about trading and stuff, and Tony's been playing League of Legends, so...
And Hearthstone.
Oh, yeah. Well, you've been...
And I played a game of Overwatch, which is another thing I was going to add before I was so rudely interrupted.
Yeah, get used to that. Like, this is the second week. I mean...
Also talking to people in the Discord, our Starspace Discord, about...
That's a chatting program, correct?
Yes, it is. It's like Skype, except with closed servers so that only people that are invited can get in.
And funny messages when you load it.
It's true. And we open up a server, and anybody that follows this channel can get an invite if they request for one from one of us or our moderator over there, Mark. So they can get in, and recently I've been talking to people on there about setting up a night for all of us to meet up and play Overwatch. So that's been pretty cool.
Very cool. I would do that.
You're probably going to do that.
But I would. If I wasn't obligated to do it, I would still do it.
I mean, you're not obligated to do it. You're just a jerk if you don't.
I'm kind of obligated to do it. Because if I don't do it, the people stop watching. Right? Because they think we're liars at that point.
Nah.
All right, fine. I haven't been playing much in the way of video games. I played a little bit of League of Legends. We actually got ranked recently.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, my goodness. Oof. It's coming back on me. Played a little bit of League of Legends and got ranked. Not ranked very highly, but hopefully that will change very soon because I know that I can do it. And what else? Yeah, Hearthstone. I've been playing that. I'm really liking Hearthstone. I don't know why I really didn't get into it before.
Yeah, me
it's
either.
It's a perfect mix of the board game and video game thing, right? It's like an online CCG, like Magic the Gathering. I had played it a while ago, like a couple years ago.
Yeah.
And gotten some decks going and a good amount of cards. And just recently started playing again. Was glad to see that the decks that I had made mostly were still standard. So I didn't have to do a whole lot of changes to them. And yeah, I'm really excited to play that some more. And I'm thinking about doing maybe a little bit of streaming of that at some point if I get time.
Yeah.
But that's a really fun game and kind of a crossover. Like it really works well for this show because it's a really good mix of board game, video game, everything we like into one. Right?
Yeah, and we've always talked about how much we like collectible card games growing up. So it just makes sense for us to give this game a shot too.
Yep. And I know one thing that you wanted to bring up was the YouTube that we're going to be working on.
Yes. So with all this new Twitch streaming, we've been talking more and more about how to make our content most available to the people that care to watch it. And Twitch streaming, even though it's something really new that we're doing because there isn't a lot of board gaming personalities that do live streaming in general on a consistent basis. So we wanted to give it a shot. And that's what we're doing right now, but we're starting to see some of the holes in only focusing on doing a Twitch channel as our main form of putting out content. And the biggest thing is people's schedules.
Right.
You have to really conform to what your audience's schedule is. And for us, most of our fans at least are older people that have full-time jobs, families, so on and so forth. So it limits the time frame in which we can really stream and have a decent audience on this website. So the way that we're going to remedy that is we have an option to record all of these streams at the exact same time that we're doing the stream. So we're going to start making more YouTube videos out of the content that we stream on here.
Right. The idea is taking the things that we're streaming, putting them on YouTube so that if you're not available to watch it as we're doing it, that you can come back and watch later. And it'll be the same sort of content. We're still going to be doing the same things like this show. This show will go on YouTube after we do it. My reviews will go on YouTube after we do them. And some of the gameplay stuff we do can go on YouTube. So hopefully that'll make it a little easier for people that can't show up at exactly 7 p.m. on Friday, every other Friday, to be able to watch it later on. And then, help us reach other people who can't randomly just stumble across us. They'll see the YouTube video, hopefully, and think, oh, I want to watch that live.
Yeah, and for the most part, it's going to be just straight up uploads from what we do on the stream to the YouTube. Because if there's one thing Eddie and I aren't, it's very good editors.
And that's going to be youtube.com/startspace gaming, correct? Yeah. Do we have a link for that below the stream?
Yes. There's a YouTube tab, and if you click it, it will take you to our YouTube channel.
So
to subscribe.
Right, and if you subscribe there, you'll be able to see those videos when they come out. Thank you for watching live if you are watching live, but those also will be there for streams you can't catch, or if you want to watch any parts of them over again. All right, did you play anything else, or anything else you want to talk about while you have this this moment?
I just play League.
All right. Let's get into what we're talking about.
Probably going to play ranked. No. I mean, if you're going to ask.
No, you already said no, so I'm moving on.
You're such an ass. Anyways, like you said, we just started playing ranked, so that's going to be kind of a goal of ours, is to get to as high of a rank as we humanly can sooner than later, because they make a lot of changes in that game relatively quickly.
Yes, they do.
So I think some big changes are going to be happening in the next month, actually, that are going to change like a lot of stuff because it's mid-season. So that's going to be, I think my main goal is to do as much as I can right now and just see what happens.
Absolutely.
But I figure if like the changes are like really big and it's not very fun for me to play after the changes, because sometimes that happens, I think I'm going to focus more on playing Hearthstone, Overwatch, Battlefield 1, stuff like that.
Cool. And they can catch some of that at least here.
Yeah, I'm going to be streaming most, if not all of it. The only thing I might not stream is Battlefield 1 because my computer isn't the best computer of all time, so it kind of struggles both playing like a really graphically intensive game and streaming at the same time. So that's the only game that I probably wouldn't stream at the same time.
All right, cool. So we are going to move on now. We ready?
Yes.
To the main topic of this show, which is essentially going to be about artwork. and we're talking about artwork in gaming, both in tabletop board gaming and in video games eventually, right?
Also in music.
But Tony, don't tell them. They have to. It's a surprise.
No, it's not. It's in the show. What the
All
hell
right,
are you
so
talking about?
What we're doing first is board game art, and we're talking about. So first, you want to go over kind of what.
That was some very feminine hushing.
Tony.
Tierney.
We're going over first board game art, right? What are some of the board art is extremely important to board games.
Absolutely.
I mean, it's a as much as video games are a visual media, right? They're also you can sort of get immersed into it in other ways because you're kind of physically doing things.
Yes.
In board games, you're really just moving pieces on a board. You're playing cards. So a lot of the theme, a lot of the losing yourself in that, feeling like you're a superhero or whatever else, is pretty much based on the artwork.
Yes.
And what we're focusing on in one aspect here is cover art for these things, because that's sort of the first impression you get. It's the thing that draws you into a game or maybe keeps you away. So we'll start off first with an example that I have here of what is traditionally considered the bad board game cover, the kind that drives people away.
Sure.
And that would be this game, Caelus.
Okay. I'm looking at the
see it
screen
over there?
to see it, yeah.
This is the prototypical dour Englishman
Okay. Okay.
or European man. It doesn't really tell you much about the game. It is kind of boring.
I really like the tan that's going on there.
Yeah, it does, I mean, like I said, it doesn't tell you anything about the game. Doesn't really make you excited for it. The only reason that you would maybe pick it up based on the artwork is because you know, oh, a game with this kind of artwork will be a heavier sort of game that I will like.
Sure.
And then you look at the back, and there's not much there either. So
Yeah.
like, this is. I mean, what do you think when you see this box art?
For some reason, I think of Carcassonne. I'm not sure why.
Well, without saying like, I think of another game. I mean, I guess what I'm saying is say something helpful. But not in so many words. Do you like this artwork? Does it give you any feelings?
No.
No feelings? Not even ones of disgust?
No.
All right. This is a failed experiment.
Is it?
Yes, it is. What do you like in your board game cover? What makes you want to pull a game off the shelf and give it a try?
I think yeah. Give it a try. I don't know. I don't feel like there's any one particular form of art style that really pops out to me. I think it just has to be unique and attempt to grab attention, you know?
I think you'll see from my list of music art later on, I have a pretty eclectic style that I like.
Yeah.
I don't really get drawn in by just artwork.
Right.
It doesn't really bother me that much. Like games that are kind of like that Caelus box art. Yeah, it's boring, and yeah, it's prototypically kind of the dull Euro board game artwork.
Sure.
But I don't care.
Yeah.
It doesn't really bother me.
Yeah.
And Sentinels of the Multiverse is another game that's kind of not universally, but a lot of people say they don't like the artwork in that it looks amateurish, especially the early stuff.
Are we talking about box art still, or are we talking about art in general?
Well, you can take it both ways. Sentinels, I mean, the box art was the same as the regular artwork, so it that was kind of like one and the same.
Okay.
But I mean, both. Like, what do you look for in a board game cover? And I guess you can extend that to like the actual in-game artwork too. Is there certain kinds of artwork you like, certain kinds you don't like?
Man, that's tough. Well, if I were to look at things that I don't like, that I don't want to see in a game, like that, the game that you were showing was a perfect example of that. Just something very bland and flat, with very stereotypical font. You know, like I feel like for like medieval or like older story games like that, that's a pretty common lettering that you'll see. And you know, when you see something a million times, especially if you have like a bad experience with a game like that, you're gonna potentially think that game's going to be bad too because it shares similarities with it.
Right.
On top of that, like you said, when you look at a box art like that, you can't tell anything about the game at all or any of its personality. And if you were to try to guess the personality of that game, you would assume it's boring and flat because the art is boring and flat.
Yeah, I agree. There's, like, if I saw that game, the art doesn't turn me away, but I also would have an immediate sort of reaction to what kind of game it is.
Mm-hmm.
And that could be good or bad. Like, when I play that, I would be assuming, well, this is probably going to be a heavier Euro game. There's not going to be a lot of theme there. And at the same time, if I see a game with, like, let's pull up another game here, one that you actually chose as an example of good box artwork.
Hit me with it, Eddie. Come on.
Blood Rage.
That was the one I was going to talk about.
Look at that. Look at that artwork.
Looking at this game, it's awesome.
Uh-huh.
But another thing is that I personally am not a huge fan of super dark and, like, games that have, like, ultra violence in it. That's not personally what I like.
So not Clockwork Orange, the board game?
Yes. So something like that makes me think, oh, this is just going to be, like, super gruesome. Laughing over there.
Did you get it?
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. And typically when I see that, it's because I have this stigma of, okay, this game is only going to focus on, like, super heavily on combat, and it's going to make a really big point to be really, really graphic.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's going to use that as a crutch in the game. So I typically have that stigma against games that are super dark like that.
I will say for me, though.
But
I mean, I was going to say for me, though, but
I mean,
go ahead.
No one cares. So, but with that game in
Press one if you
particular,
care.
don't you dare push one. But in that game in particular, when we ended up playing it, it absolutely did not do what I was expecting it to do. I thought it was going to be very lackluster, even though I was hearing a lot of hype for the game around the time that you ended up. I mean, you got it at a BGG Con, didn't you?
The year that it came out, yeah, a few months after it came out.
Yeah. So when we ended up playing it, not only was I expecting it to be super, super over the top gory, but I was also expecting the game to be super long with playtime, and it was neither. So it was actually a really, really good battling warring game with, like, units that you can choose and upgrade. And I love the card trading aspect where you're trading hands and you pick a card and then pass what's left of your hand over to the next person, and you get a new hand and pick a card. I always love that system, and I love that this was like a warring game that added that.
Right, yeah.
So it was something really different and really cool about it. And then just having the figures with the big monsters on it, it was just really different from what I was expecting it to be. And it gave me a new respect for games that look like they can potentially be just like a really gory graphic game.
Yeah, what I was going to say was that I think that mindset that, like, you see that cover and you think, oh, this is going to rely on violence as a crutch, or this is going to be just over the top and no substance. I think that's more so applicable to video games.
Okay.
And I think it comes from that mindset of like, oh, I see this game that has this really gory cover that's going to be all about violence, and there's not going to be anything really there. It's just going to be a cookie cutter of some other first-person shooter.
Right.
Board games, I mean, they can't really be that violent or that explicit other than in the artwork. Like, one of the most violent, quote-unquote, games, I think from an artwork point of view, may be like Chaos in the Old World. That is actually kind of a precursor to Blood Rage, but it has, like, it's based in this Warhammer 40K universe that's kind of dark to begin with.
Okay.
And then the board itself, for instance, like the map that you're fighting over is like stretched human skin. So it has like this dark artwork, but then when you get down to it, you're really just moving guys on a board and fighting.
Okay.
How dark can it really be when that's all you're doing?
Sure.
I mean, Mansions of Madness has, like, the new one, the second edition, has that app with the storytelling, where the storytelling can be like, and then you walked into a room and a zombie got you. So that can be, like, darker story-wise, I guess. But I don't know. I don't feel like board games can really get that dark. At least for me. I guess I just don't get lost in them that much.
Yeah, maybe if it was more of like a story game.
So when I see that Blood Rage artwork, I just think, wow, really good artwork, like good quality artwork.
Yeah, absolutely.
The theme looks cool. Cool. That's pretty much what I think.
Yeah, even though I might say that I'm not into the darker stuff or something when I see it, I would never say that that artwork was bad.
Yeah, yeah.
You know? But in the video game sense, like you were talking about, when I look at a video game, a good like, well, I guess we're going to talk about video games here in a minute, so let's just
Yeah,
stick
let's,
with board
a
gaming.
couple more board
That's
games
gonna
we
be-
had here.
That's an actual thing that we're talking about later.
This is
Yeah, we can talk about that on here. We can talk about video games. Another board game that you chose.
Yes, it is.
This cover is a little bit busted. It's not my fault. It actually came like this, but you can tell that the artwork is pretty good.
Eddie doesn't take care of his games.
Confirmed. Tokaido. And you can see how stark and pretty this box is. Just the white, the mostly white, and then and this actually really reflects the game. Kind of it's a fairly calming and simple game. A big part of the game is putting together like panoramas of the view as you're doing this journey. So I mean, the good artwork and the clean design of this cover really shows you what the game is kind of like. Why did you pick this one?
I picked it because it was one of the games that I thought had a very minimalistic cover, and then you open up the game and the board looks incredible, and the colors and the art on all the individual pieces were incredible, and so I felt like it was a really good example of the opposite of don't judge a book by its cover. Because if you were to just show me a wall of board games and say pick one, if I hadn't already played that game and knew what to expect, I would never pick that game as like the one game I would play. But now that I've played it, if I tell myself, you know, Tokaido is like a really light game where it almost doesn't even really feel like a game. It's more of just like you make a couple choices and you go here and there, and it's just a relaxing experience. If I want to have that, I know that that game's reliable and something that I could play with people that never play board games, and we can have a good time.
Yeah.
So it's just another side of the spectrum of some art can be extremely detailed and pull you in with that, and then some games you absolutely shouldn't just look at and judge so very harshly.
And I kind of look at it a different way. Like I actually really like that box art, and that box art. Although I guess you're right.
I never said I didn't like it. I said that it was minimalistic.
It is minimalistic, and the thing that I was thinking, the part that I was thinking I was disagreeing with was where you were saying if you saw that box art, you would just pass it over most of the time if you didn't know what kind of game it was, or
Okay.
you know, if you didn't know it was a good game. I wanted to say that I think I would choose it based on that box art. That box art actually would make me want to play it. But when I think about it, I'm not sure because it does have a kind of, it's so minimalistic that it's almost like nothing look. So if I didn't know what the game was about, if I didn't know it was a good game or had heard good things about it,
Sure.
maybe I would have looked at that and it would have been, you know, I have no idea what this game's actually about. So I'd rather play this. It looks more exciting.
Okay.
I don't know. A couple more here.
Just another example of good box art.
Oh, this is the one you picked, Mark.
Yeah, this is one that producer Mark chose as an example of good art.
Emily's giving the so-so sign.
Art is subjective.
Definitely is.
I like this one. I mean, it is definitely evocative of, you know, exciting adventure. It almost is kind of misleading a little bit because then you get into it and it's this kind of slower game of running around and trying not to get caught. But it does have a lot of tension. It has a lot of personal suspense. So I mean, I just in general, and then I don't know if you can probably see that there might even be a glare on the box, but there's like the spot printing on the box that
It's
has.
not glaring.
If you can see it, there's like it's shiny off some parts of the.
Yeah, it's not doing it. Keep going.
All right, fine.
Keep going.
It's like spot printed. Like this part right here, you could. It's like shinier than the rest of the box. I don't know.
Screw it.
I think it's cool.
Yeah.
I guess you had to be there.
One thing with that game is that you had that game for a long time before I played it, and I thought the art was really good on the box, but I realized because you brought up, hey, we should play this game, and I'm kind of and I was wondering why, because it's not like the art on there is bad, but that was the game that I kind of realized I'm more into like a fantasy theme, like like Lord of the Rings type of theme than I am like a futuristic or fighting aliens type of theme with like.
Yeah, I would actually generally agree.
Yeah, that was the game that I realized it with. I didn't realize it before, but then I saw that, and then we played that game, and that game's awesome.
It is. And then this is the last one we had here, and
This is another one you chose.
Mm-hmm.
And this one's kind of a weird one.
This is definitely a weird one.
I was surprised when you picked this one because it's got the like bright pink that's immediately just
Well, it sticks out.
it's bright pink. Look at it.
Yeah.
Why'd you pick this one?
I picked it because it's a board game with the art of a video game. And the box itself, I mean, it is of like a bright, loud pink, but that's kind of the point. It's like it grabs your eye. And I was looking at your shelf, and when I look over here, I see a lot of orange and I see a lot of brown, and I was like, I have no idea which one of these to pick because I know there's a lot of good games over there, and I saw two other games up there, and then this one stuck out like a sore thumb.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, that's kind of what we're talking about. So,
Yeah, and this one, the theme of this one, it's a deck building game where you instead of cards, you're building a bag of chips, and the theme of it is it's almost like Super Puzzle Fighter, or, where you're trying not to have your area fill up with a certain amount of gems. If it does, then you lose, and you're trying to make the other people fill up with gems before you do. And you mentioned also the characters are video gamey,
yes.
right, on the cover. So yeah, I mean, this is definitely one that's
Kind of a crossover.
they were going for that.
And with that game, though, the gameplay is the art is misleading because you'd think like, oh, that's got to be like a huge factor. And when you open up the game and stuff, it really isn't.
Well, it's really, really hard when I think about it to like have box art on a board game that really shows you what the game is like.
But I mean, that's a big difference.
Yeah, because board games are so abstracted out that 5 games with basically the same artwork on the cover, with like some guy standing with a ship in the Renaissance, have like completely different gameplay. But they all have the same artwork because that's the theme. Like the artwork in a board game is based off the theme. The artwork in a video game may be more based off of the like feelings you get out of it or the gameplay style.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So that Puzzle Strike game is interesting because you can really tell what they were going for. They were going for the video game audience.
Yeah.
It was based on a video game sort of theme. It had video game-esque character drawings. And they did a good job with that. And then the bright pink really draws your eye to it on the shelf. So
Yes.
they did the job, right? As far as like artwork in board games, like I said, it doesn't really bother me that much if the artwork's not great or if there's not a lot of artwork. But it definitely helps.
I definitely think you make a bigger deal over games if the pieces and the art in the game is exceptional. Like, I think that's a pretty general statement to make, but you in particular, I would assume you would mostly put weight on good mechanics, the game functioning correctly, stuff like that, which you do, but it's not too far followed by, wow, this game has really good miniatures in it, or really sturdy pieces, or they really did this thing different or that thing different. That makes the game just like a completely different experience.
Yeah.
And it's kind of the really big difference between board gaming, video gaming, is getting the physical pieces of something in your hand and feeling the difference between a game that you got for $20 and a game you bought for $80.
Yeah, I can definitely see where you're coming from with that. And I do tend to heap praise on a game if it has artwork I really like.
Right.
But I also know that there are games that I like that don't have the best artwork. I think it's more that I can appreciate really good artwork, but if it doesn't have really good artwork and then the game is still really good, then I'm fine.
Yeah.
It doesn't really like completely turn me off a game.
Sure.
Although maybe it does have to work a little harder because I'm not immediately drawn in.
Mm-hmm.
But that's just me. Video games.
What?
So talking about artwork in video games, you have some things a little different. There's obviously
Still a cover
thing, right? There's still box art gets you into the game. It gets you to buy it. Gets you to pick it up off the shelf.
I had one.
Example here, and we have some more picked out. But I talked about this last time I was playing Persona 5.
Persona 5. That's
Yeah.
a brand new game.
Yeah, look at this. Look at this cool
Look
thing.
at this.
And it's got that. Look at that. It's cool. Look at it. And I spent money on it. Look at it. And this, like, the art style of this game particularly is one that people have been talking a lot about. Whenever I hear people talking about it, it's as much for the art style as it is for the gameplay itself. And I'm trying to get this on there. Hang on, okay. I got it. I was still talking and acting like nothing was happening. Persona 5 has been getting a lot of attention for its artwork and its style, its graphical style, and for good reason because it has like this really striking art style to it.
Sure.
Before we look at the other games we chose, any other anything else you want to say about like the kind of artwork you generally like
Well,
on a video game? Is it any different than a board game?
Say it out loud, Mark.
Oh, there's like a couple games that they were talking about in the chat for the board games. If y'all wanted to.
Sure, throw them out.
Okay.
We have some comments.
Yeah. So they're talking about BattleCon, and is that level 99?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and just the level 99 kind of anime art.
Say it out loud, Eddie. He doesn't have a mic next to
There
him.
is, so we had a mention of BattleCon's War of Indines, Devastation of Indines. I have it over there, but it's over there. It's heavy, and there's lights and stuff in the way. But that's a very like anime inspired style.
Excuse.
It's an anime inspired art style, and that artist actually, I really like that artist. And to give you an example of how the artwork can help these games, there is somebody else, some other company doing a MOBA-inspired board game, and I've been seeing art ads for it that has the artwork, and I recognized the art style because it's the same sort of anime art style, and it's the same artist. It's a different company that's making the game. Tony's not listening to me. It's the same artist who's making the game, but or saying a different company that's making it, but it's the same artist. And I was able to tell immediately, oh, this is the same artist who did that Battle of Indines game. And so I was more interested in it because it was the same
Association.
artist. Yeah.
What else did they mention?
Seasons and Dead of Winter.
Love Seasons.
Seasons, has gotten a lot of attention, and rightfully so for its artwork.
That game actually grew on me because the first couple times I played it, I was like, yeah, this is fun, but it's like nothing blowing my mind. And then we played it for the 24-hour marathon for Extra Life. And then I think we ended up playing it again soon after that. And both times I just looked at the game and was like, wow, this is really, really unique.
Yeah, and artwork is amazing in that game. Every card, there's like a couple of duplicates, I think, but almost every card is unique artwork.
It has a lot of individuality. Like it doesn't feel like everything's stuck in the same theme in the same world. Everything has a lot of characteristics to its like individuality to itself, and it all feels like every card is special and individual, and like that. I don't know how to put it. It's just, it feels like it's almost like several different games in one strictly because of the art.
And one thing that's really cool about that game specifically is that it's really colorful artwork.
Yes.
So that makes it stand out.
And the board.
Dead of Winter also has really standout artwork, so much so that no one's really mad that it doesn't have miniatures for everything, because the standees that you use for the characters and the zombies look really good because they have that artwork on them. The artwork really helps pull you into the game because all the characters have like a unique look. They are recognizable, and they look really good. So you kind of get more pulled into the story because the artwork is so good. If they were just stick figures, I wouldn't care that the fireman got eaten by a dog. It would just be whatever. But I do care.
I mean, it
happens.
happens. I mean, it happens.
Because the fireman's so sexy.
Was there anything else, Mark, before we move on?
All right, I got the head.
And just what your favorites are. Did you mention which ones you
Favorite overall board game artwork?
Think of yours too, Emily and Mark.
Favorite overall board game artwork. Like I said, for me, it's not something like, if I see something that I really like, then I'll remark on it and I'll sort of give it that, oh, this looks really good. But I tend to remember games more for their gameplay than for their artwork.
I'll name a couple off the top of my head. Blood Rage, because it changed my mind on a lot of stuff. Neuroshima Hex.
The artwork?
Yes, I like the pieces on the chips in that game. I feel like there's a lot of different characteristics to each character in that game. And then what is it? Evolution.
Yeah, Evolution looks good. Yeah, and the Neuroshima Hex one's interesting because then it gets in kind of into graphic design too. Like,
Yep.
Not just the artwork, but how do they put all the information on the card so that you can read it easily, and you don't take away from the artwork with all these icons.
Anybody else? Favorite artwork? Anybody?
I actually really like Terra Mystica. It's a little bit goofy, but I really like that game, and then I really like the artwork on top of it. I don't know why. It's more colorful than I think a Euro that heavy would normally be.
I know hers. Ghost Stories.
And I just thought earlier, I like Splendor. I forgot about Splendor.
Oh yeah, Splendor with the
Splendor with the diamonds, the gems. That's a really good looking game, and then the components like the poker chips just really help.
You got one, Mark?
Probably Spectre Ops.
he
Especially
really
the
loves
side-
Spectre Ops.
The side of it really sticks out on the wall of board games, like the graphics of the text on the the font. I really like the font too.
Yeah, you're saying it really stands out on the shelf. I can agree with that. And
Sure.
part of that is
I don't know if I showed you guys, but it.
kind of lights up on the on the thing. Yeah.
Show's falling apart.
You got to pick it up yourself.
War of the Ring though too. I really
Yeah.
like. I mean, it's like my favorite game.
Yes.
Anyway, but the decision and the movies were out at that point. But going with the drawn Lord of the Rings artwork instead of like pictures from the movie or something like that. I love that artwork.
Last one, Mage Wars. I love the individual cards and stuff.
Oh
in
yeah,
that
Mage
game.
Wars has really good art.
Mm-hmm.
All right,
There we go.
back to video games. We
Okay.
picked out a couple that maybe not like our favorites for all time or anything like that, but ones that we found were striking. And actually, this was mostly me and Emily went over and looked at the video game wall.
Vanna, Emily.
And the first one we'll look at is Okami. It's that first one there. That's why it's
You did
I
not
did not
put
pick-
Okami in there.
Oh no, I made a mistake.
All right, wait, go ahead and go get it.
No.
Go get it.
No, it's fine. I
It'll be-
thought that was Okami because it
it'll
was
be
the
fun.
Wii. The first one we'll look at is
The
Xenoblade
wait,
Chronicles.
no, let's wait. The sad part is he's the one who picked these out and walked them
I
over
had
here.
Okami in my hand and was like, no, we don't need this many games, so I put it back. And then I saw a white case for a Wii game, which
And-
is an Okami.
and just assumed it was
And I
Okami.
forgot we had that one, which is Xenoblade Chronicles.
Good transition.
Oh, good lord. So hard. It is so hard. This is the reversible cover. On the other side, it has the normal cover, but this just looks really good. So you wouldn't necessarily see this on the shelf, but man, doesn't that game look pretty? Doesn't it look pretty, Tony?
It does.
Yeah, that one just obviously would stand out on the shelf, and I keep it on that side. That's one thing that is really cool about video games. They can't really do with board games, although with some board games they have the like sleeves that go over the cases where you can have different artwork on the board game. But with video games, I love when they have the reversible artwork like that you can take the paper insert out and flip it around and have cool artwork that you decide you want. I'm talking directly to you right now because no one else is listening to me.
You want me to show that?
I'm trying to run a show.
No,
Eddie.
no, it's fine. He's supposed to be running the show. You're supposed to be talking to the
I gotta ask him a question. Just keep talking. Jesus.
Um,
So unprofessional.
I am the most professional. Let's look at the next game.
Well, to be fair, I haven't played Xenoblade, and I haven't paid much attention to it, so I didn't have much to add to it.
Do you like reversible covers?
Yes, and it has one. I know that. You told me about it.
That's all I was trying to say. Red Dead Redemption. This was one Tony chose, actually. This is one Tony told us to get. So I'll let Tony talk about it.
Red Dead Redemption. That's actually the limited edition box, isn't it?
Yeah, it has the same artwork, I think, on the regular cover. I mean,
It had like it has the slip cover on it.
yeah, but it has the same
Yeah,
artwork.
can you show both of them?
It has the same artwork.
Boosh.
It's the same.
It's cool. Oh, so if you want to do stuff, I don't give you any crap, but when I want to do stuff,
I don't like where you're saying you don't give me any crap. You were just lying at that point.
yeah. Okay. So anyways.
Red Dead Redemption. Look at that artwork. It's iconic at this point.
Yes, at this point, I think I like the artwork so much because it is so iconic. And then the game itself, in game, it was open world. It's not one of the first games to do open world, but it was definitely one that it was like people made like a big deal about it being like a Western game that was an open world experience.
Well, and it's made by people who made Grand Theft Auto, so it's like Grand Theft Auto in the Wild West.
Yeah,
Was a
but that's what I mean is like the theme of Wild Wild West.
Yeah.
Was really, really attractive at the time, and the graphics in the game at that time made the story and everything else better in the game. It was an additive thing for it, but it was still really important, and it's still really symbolic of a specific time in video gaming.
We had next Shadow of the Colossus. This game is really well known for its its art style and feel throughout the game, but the cover too is really good, and I think also iconic at this point.
Absolutely.
And really indicative of how the game plays, like this majesty of like this little guy and this giant monster.
I have not played this game.
You've seen it being played though.
I know like basically the story at this point. I mean, it's so old and I've known about it for so long that it's kind of hard not to know how the story goes. But I've always adored the art in this game. It's so pretty to look at. I typically don't like playing through story modes in games, but when I'm really, really interested in seeing a story unravel, typically you'll end up looking into it and you'll end up wanting to play games that I'm already kind of interested in seeing how it goes. So I end up just watching you play the game. It's like watching a movie or like a series. That was a dog.
Those are dog ears.
Yeah, dog ears a fluttering. But yeah, that's one of those games where it's just you see highlights of it all the time, and it feels almost like at a certain time, and even it's still today, it's known as like a game that set a benchmark for what art and video games can really bring to the table. And I feel like the high point in that game, it's really close, like it's neck and neck between how great the story was and how great the art was.
Yeah. And the last one we chose here, this is actually Emily chose this one, was Final Fantasy X and X-2, and she chose it because it looked mystical and girly.
Bring it in, Emily.
Oh.
Closer, closer, closer. There you go.
The reasoning I believe was because it looks mystical and girly, which I strongly disagree with. It's a very manly game. No, but I really like that cover too. And one of the big things I want to talk about with the video games is that, as opposed to the board games where they can't really show, and thank you, Emily. I said thank you.
Oh, yeah.
Jesus Christ, everyone's against me.
It was a very defensive show. Over.
As opposed to the board games where you can't really use artwork to show the gameplay, the box cover.
It was a proper reaction. You can never
It was
tell
not
when
a
somebody's
proper
being
reaction.
sarcastic.
You can't just immediately go to that place. As opposed to board games where you can't really show the theme through the box cover art, right? You can't really look at the cover of a board game and necessarily tell this is what kind of board game it is based on that artwork. With these video games, I think you can pretty easily tell kind of what kind of video game it is.
Uh-huh.
The Xenoblade Chronicles one with the big, the all the greenery and the expanse. That game has a lot of exploration and stuff in it. It's a long game. It's a very majestic sort of thing. Same thing with Shadow of the Colossus. You see the little guy and you see the big monster. That's what the game is all about. Is facing those big odds. Red Dead Redemption. It's a guy with a gun. You're a guy with a gun, and you run around and shoot things.
Bada bing, bada
Yeah,
boom.
like all these games, you look at these covers and you kind of have an idea of how the game works.
Yes.
Whereas board games, they don't really do that, and they don't really try to do that because they don't want to put they don't want to have the K-list guy sitting in front of a board pushing a cube. Like,
I mean, that would,
that would give you an idea of what the game's like, but it's not very good artwork. It's not going to sell games. And of course, and I'll throw to you on this one more, but
Sure.
beyond box art, maybe board games, the box art's really important, maybe even the most important. But for video games,
What is going on over there?
That is a dog.
He's rolling on his back. You can cut that out, Milo. All right, keep talking.
for video games, it's the graphics in the game and the artwork in the game that is a bigger deal.
Sure. Keep talking.
I was throwing it to you. I said I was throwing it to you, and I have no other plan. Rather than the box art for a video game, it's more about the in-game art.
Yeah, definitely, because when you, like you said, with board games, it's almost expected at this point. The box art is going to try and lure you into the experience for the most part. There are the exceptions. But it's going to try and lure you into an experience or pull you into this world and give you an experience that on the actual table, it might not actually be able to pull you into exactly what the art is telling you it's about to pull you into. Video gaming, for the most part, is very different. When you look at the box art, there's a really, really, really solid chance that the game is going to look a lot like it, at least in this generation and the last generation of video gaming, where graphics have kind of caught up. I mean, it wasn't like that with like Atari and whatever. I mean, I feel like back then, Commodore 64, stuff like that, you would get this game box with guys with like blaster rifles and aliens all over the place, and then you go into the game and it's just like 3 pixels with a little arm.
I was gonna say it's actually kind of funny because you go back to like Atari, and it was the ad or the box cover was a big muscly dude with a sword, and it was like a photorealistic drawing. And then you look at the actual game, and it's 3 pixels with a 1 pixel sword fighting 2 pixels over here. So again, they couldn't really show. They didn't really want to show the gameplay with the artwork.
Yes.
They wanted to give you a feeling of what the game was like board games do. It's really interesting. I hadn't thought about it that way before, but yeah, now that it's gotten to the point where the artwork can be the same.
I say smart things too sometimes, Eddie.
I think he stumbled into that one though, which I'll give you credit for it, but I'm not expecting much in 2 weeks.
Thank you.
Uh,
But yes,
Yeah.
video gaming nowadays, though, can very easily accomplished graphics throughout the entire gaming experience that the box art doesn't, mislead you with. If they don't want to do that, sometimes it still is misleading or whatnot, just because they choose to do that. But for the most part, like Final Fantasy, that was a game that when you look at the cover, the in-game experience is pretty close to what the cover is showing you.
Right.
And I mean, in some way, it's just a different experience. I think like video games, it's much more like, okay, you're buying this and you're gonna get this. So it's a lot more like, okay, well, Final Fantasy, I know that it does this, this, and this, and when you buy the game, things about the art will impress you or
Right.
surprise you while the experience goes on, but it's in a different manner than a board game would, because you might play a board game and it might surprise you and impress you, but it's not normally, I feel, going to be due to the art. Or I feel it does happen sometimes. I mean, like with a game like Rampage that we were talking about, where it's a very 3D type of game where it has levels and a lot of buildings that are built up, and you crush the buildings, and so the board starts falling apart as the game progresses. That is a very visual game, but Rampage is a pretty big exception to the rule. So I feel like the visual changes that happen in board gaming for the most part are more like Euro games, where like you see tiles move from here to here, you have banks that increase, or a game like Agricola, where you build your own little farm, and you have like fencing, you have like boars and whatever.
Yeah, animals, livestock.
Yeah. So by the end of the game, things have changed. So it does offer, change throughout the experience of playing the game, but it's not as accurate looking or like lifelike looking as like a video game would.
Right. There's obviously a lot of differences between like the goals of art in board games and the goals of art in video games. Did I say video games twice or?
Let's roll with it, man.
All right, I meant to say board games and video games. So if I didn't say that, that's what I meant.
I won't be editing that.
Yeah, but it's still like extremely important in both.
Yes.
And I think I care about artwork more in video games than I do in board games, because I think that it's a bigger part of the experience. Like it's a bigger percentage of the total experience.
And the expectation's different.
Right. The board game, like without the art, I still have 80% of the experience. I still have the game. With in a video game, without the art, I only have 50% of the experience at most. It's a lot of that is gone now. Like I'm missing out on a lot of it. So it's obviously super important in both. Was there anything else you wanted to talk about with the art in video games or comparing it to board games before we move on? Yeah,
I would just say that there's exceptions to everything that we're talking about, and that there are definitely games that a good example is that we play Super Smash Bros. Melee for the Nintendo GameCube quite often. That's like a very frequent game that we play, and we don't prefer Smash 4 as much as we prefer Melee. And the biggest thing that everybody talks about in that comparison is the graphic upgrade between the two games. And the thing that draws us to Melee more than Smash 4, besides its pro scene and the esports side of it, is the mechanics and the way that the game itself actually plays. So that's kind of an exception to that rule. You're pulling on your cord.
But I will say that even then, people care about the graphics in those games, and there are people trying to make Melee HD versions, and there's people who want a Melee HD for the Nintendo Switch and that sort of thing. So even then, it's not completely. People still care about the graphics. It's just that they're willing to kind of forgive it in a game that they really, really like that much.
Sure.
Anything else you want to add?
No.
All right. So here is where we last time ended the show after we sort of talked about a thing, and we have finished talking about a thing.
No.
But what we're going to do now is something different. When we made this show, Crossing the Line, we had decided, as opposed to the podcast we had done before that was all about board games, all about getting new people into board games.
Yes.
This was going to be whatever we wanted it to be.
Yeah.
If we want to talk about board games, we talk about board games. If we want to talk about video games, we can talk about video games. And if we want to talk about music or anything else, we can talk about music or anything else.
Sure.
So in this episode, we're going to finish off by talking about music. And we're going to finish off, but we're still keeping it in the artwork vein.
Yeah. Well, the whole topic is about artwork, so we're sticking with the overall theme of this show.
And we are going to be doing a top 10 list.
Yes.
Because people love top 10 lists.
I mean, they do.
People love top 10 lists.
They love it.
And we're doing a top 10 list. We each have our top 10, and this is going to be our favorite album covers of all time. Favorite art on album covers of all time. I have my favorite 10. You have your favorite 10. We haven't shown each other what they are.
Yeah.
But we do have our computers here because in case one of us doesn't remember what it looks like,
Yeah.
We can see what that art looked like.
And I think our amazing producer, Mark, has something semi-prepared. We're going to start with Eddie's. Eddie's number 10.
We are?
Yeah.
I think Tony has his on his.
Do you want this?
No, I don't need it.
I have my list here, and I want to say before we start, this was a hard list for me to do. I thought it was going to be easy. I was like, 10 album covers that I really like. Like,
Yeah.
no problem.
Yeah.
I can do that like an
No
hour.
problem.
I can do it in an hour before we start. It doesn't even matter. Like, that's just easy. Just name 10 things I like. Like, what am I, an idiot? And then I actually started trying to do it.
He found out the hard way.
And then I actually started trying to do it, and I was like, oh, I'm at 5. I need to come up with 5 more. Because then it's like the thing where I'm not that visual, I think.
Yes.
I know bands, I know the names of the albums, I know all that stuff, but I'm not really like...
Well, the dynamic between us has always been that I'm way more into actual like music and albums and bands and that kind of thing than you are. So for the most part, when I find something new, I show it to you and see if you like it or not, and then you add that to whatever collection of music that you enjoy. So you don't have a vast catalog of different artists that you like, but you typically really like the ones that you end up choosing to enjoy.
But even then, it wasn't even about like there's not a lot of musicians I like or not a lot of albums I like. I thought I can just think of 10 album covers I like. We have this wall of albums up here, and the reason we did this was because it's artwork.
Yeah.
I mean, it looks interesting, and we can change out the artwork basically by just putting different albums up there.
Sure.
So, I mean, you would think that I'd be able to choose 10 easily, but I couldn't. But I did. But I couldn't. But I did.
Number 10.
So my number 10, I think, is a weird one, and I wouldn't. This is one of the ones that I didn't think of at first.
Okay.
Do you have the?
Yeah, yeah.
You're
From
actually-
left to right, right?
Yeah, and you're gonna know what this one is, so it's, you don't even have to really worry about that much.
Oh, okay.
Dookie, the album by Green Day.
That's actually pretty surprising from you.
For one thing, I don't feel bad about liking the artwork on this one because they were actually good at this point. Like Green Day was actually a good band on that album, right? Like,
Oh, yeah.
no, like
It's a really good album.
no, you look up like best album covers of all time, which I had to do, and like American Idiot's on there.
I just love how you said that.
American Idiot is the one that's on there. Like that's the Green Day album that's the best album cover.
Yeah.
With the grenade heart.
Yeah.
Right? And I'm like, fuck that. Dookie's where it's at. I really like the cartoon artwork.
You're so hip.
Dookie's where it's at. I keep telling you, Dookie's where it's at.
Yeah, Eddie, calm down.
I really like the cartoony artwork. Yeah, it's iconic. And one thing I also want to say about this is that we talked about, like, are we doing a most iconic artwork list, or are we doing our own personal favorite? And we're doing our own personal favorite.
Yes.
Right. So I just really like this artwork, how it looks, but it sticks in my mind.
Sure.
Dookie, Green Day, number 10.
My number 10 is Cream's Disraeli Gears, which for some reason is when I thought immediately of album art, this was the one that popped into my mind, and I think it's just because of how bright.
And it only made you number 10.
I know, but it's because it was like the first album that I looked at when I was younger that I was like, okay, album art's really, really important. Because I mean, we've been playing music for forever. We started off in grade school, and then we went on to learn individual instruments on our own when we were teenagers. So music's been a really big part of our lives for a long time. And listening to music, it's more been about the music than art for us, like the visible part of it. So, but that was the first album that I saw, and I was like, wow, it's so bright, it's so colorful. It's really cool how they got the pictures of the guys in it, and the album's from like what 60 or 70 or something like that.
Right.
For them to do something like that way back then, it's just really, it blew my mind.
It's a good choice. I like it.
I'm glad that it passed your test, Eddie.
It did. Just barely. And I'm going to number 9.
Number 9.
My number 9 is Santana.
Wow.
Cool black and white lion drawing. No, it's a very cool looking album. Is the thing.
It's very hip.
And this is another one where like the Santana album that everyone likes is Abraxas, and it's got like a very colorful
I'm not a huge Santana fan.
painting on the cover.
Mm-hmm.
But this one I like more. I like the more like subtle artwork of this one. So
Sure.
it's Santana to Lion Face.
Okay. My number 9 is The Clash London Calling.
Yeah,
I'll move to the next one.
I know what
on
it looks
there.
like. I'm trying not to look at them. I'm trying not to look, so I'm only going to look if I have to see what it looks like.
Okay. Not too long ago, I got into punk music. It was very, very recent, and I think it was mostly because the guy that used to play guitar in the band that we were in was super into punk music, and I was like, okay, well, I guess I should listen to some of this so I can understand him a little better. And anytime I hear punk music now, that's the album that I think about. Just a guy smashing the living crap out of his instrument, and that always kind of stuck with me of like, okay, that's what that type of music represents. And there's other punk bands I like more. I really like the Misfits and Fugazi, stuff like that. Like that's more like alternative, but like that artwork in particular was like that pretty much says everything.
Yeah, it's iconic. Like
Yeah.
everyone knows this album cover if you see it.
Yep.
And you know the lettering thing is based on the Elvis album.
No,
Yeah, like the Elvis Presley album has that same lettering, the same font, the same colors.
really, that's really
And
cool.
So that was like one of the most iconic album covers that like changed rock and roll. It showed like the change of rock and roll.
Sick.
So now that it's like London Calling, they're like, this is the new rock and roll. It's pretty
That's
awesome.
that's really, really cool. I didn't know that.
My number 8
Number 8.
is Age of Winters,
Oh,
The Sword.
that's awesome.
Yeah, this their albums. I almost chose.
Well, they're a smaller band.
Yeah, so The Sword is a. Oh my god, the world just shifted.
Dog sleeping on it.
I think it looks fine.
If we still look good, we're good. A dog. We just had a sleeping dog accident who just
Sleeping dog accident.
ran his head into the camera stand. All right, we're fine.
The dog is fine.
We're fine. Well, no one was asking about the dog.
I'm making
Let's
sure
be
they
honest.
do.
It was a sleeping dog accident. The dog is still asleep.
Yeah.
In case anyone was wondering. Age of Winters, the
The Sword.
Sword. They're an Austin-based band.
Yes.
They're Tony says smaller, but they're still like a national and international touring band
Compared to
They're
the
just-
bands that we've been showing,
Right. If you haven't listened to them, listen to them.
you should. They're a metal,
Right on.
metal, hard rock, kind of like a classic metal band.
Right. Age of Winters, really, really like this album cover in particular because it's got this sort of fantasy. We talked
Yes.
about liking fantasy, and a lot of their album covers are like that. I almost chose an album that we have here behind us, Gods of the Earth. It's the one up there with the sword.
Yep.
Almost chose that one. That one's a more realistic
Yes.
artwork, and Age of Winters is
Fantasy.
kind of fantasy, like woodcut artwork, just really, really, really good looking, and then really like memorable.
Yes.
So that's my number 8.
Okay. My number 8 is The Who, Who's Next?
Mm-hmm.
Which, this was the one that I picked that was kind of more a very simple, but I just like the feeling of how small they are, and I think there's like a figure in the background of it, and it just makes them seem so small, and then the desolate wasteland behind them. I just liked how that imagery worked, and listening to The Who, I'm sure everybody has at this point, how just crazy and brash they were for their time period. To see such a
Stripped down kind of.
stripped down, quiet, like I'm not sure the word that I would choose for it, but it's almost like almost like a mellow kind of thing, but the band itself is just like so insane. Some people say it's the first punk rock band. Would not argue that.
Yeah, I ran across this one a lot when I was doing research for my list.
Yeah.
I really like it. I just like the other ones better.
Sure.
My number 7 is a hip hop album
Oh, okay, good.
by the two boys from Georgia,
Yes,
Outkast, Stankonia.
that's how it's pronounced, right?
What?
Georgia.
Yeah. I'm at Georgia Peach. Stankonia is another like iconic album cover.
Yeah,
I
it
think.
is. It really is.
And I just really, it's very simple, like them standing in front of the American flag. Shows their like different personalities really well, and I don't know. It's almost like it's like a perfect entry point to like this is what the band is.
Yeah,
Very memorable. I like the colors in it a lot.
had a lot of great songs on it too.
Yeah, and the album itself is really good. So yeah, that's my number 7.
Okay. My number 7 is AC/DC's High Voltage. In particular, the Australian cover, because I believe they released an American cover, and it wasn't as good. But, what? Yes, that's the correct one, Mark. Thank you.
Yep, that's what I got here.
It was a tie between this one and Dirty Deeds. Because Dirty Deeds, I think, is the one that everybody recognizes with the eyes blocked out and the pink lettering, Dirty Deeds Done Dirt Cheap. But looking at this one, I felt like it hit all of the marks of a representation of the band, and the representation of the band is Angus. And that gimmick of him dressed up as a schoolboy, running around all over the place, playing that
Getting into hijinks.
gigantic SG because he's like 5'6" or something. Yeah, the schoolboy uniform is just like everything. It was everything for that band for a long time. And yeah, the artwork just looks really cool on it. It looks almost like a comic book cover. Just thought it was really different, really cool. And again, another like another album that was like a really old album. So yeah, it's just really cool to see like old artwork being like impressive.
You would think it would have Thunderstruck on it,
You'd think.
but it doesn't. All right, my number 6 is In the Court of the Crimson King by King Crimson.
Nice.
Like this is a freakier cover, but I like it because it's freaky and weird and different. This one's kind of the opposite. Like it's not so simple. It's different. But it gives you a good idea of like the story they're going to tell you because they do concept albums.
They do. It's a
do
prog
albums
band
based around a story, and they have like the 20th century schizoid man and that sort of thing. And so that's what this is showing you. This is what this album is. This is this story. Very evocative, colorful, but just and kind of creepy.
Yes.
It puts you off, but it also pulls you in.
It kind of has the feel of a Tool album.
Yeah, and I want to say actually, I don't know if Robbie's watching, and I'm sure he will eventually. I was looking to put a Tool album on here because I was like, I want to put a Tool album on here for my boy Robbie, the Robster, and
Rob Meister.
couldn't find any that I really like that much. So sorry.
I found one that ended up getting cut.
Well, apparently from what I was able to see, their better artwork is like on the inside jackets and stuff.
Sure.
Like they put their artwork on the inserts.
yeah.
Not necessarily on the covers. So, but this isn't about the top 10 best inserts. So, whatevs. In the Court of the Crimson King, really like it. It's weird.
My number 6 is the Jimi Hendrix Experience, Axis Bold as Love.
Not Electric Ladyland.
No, that one's like actually way more basic. It's just a picture of them in a circle with like pink around it.
But naked ladies.
No, that's like the British version of it. That's not the American version. The American version is
yeah.
the bland one.
We're prudes. Go ahead. I'm sorry. I'm trying to make conversation.
Yeah, this artwork is just like another classic cover. I actually was trying to choose between this and Sgt. Pepper. And I didn't want to put a lot of the same types of album covers. And I felt like it was kind of like it was kind of similar in the same vein, and I just went with Hendrix because I felt like that art was a lot different and a lot more it was more my personal taste. So yeah, I ended up going with Jimi Hendrix instead.
Yeah, this is a really cool album. Yeah, the whole themes of it, again, really colorful. I like colorful artwork.
Milo, come here.
That was being a wiener.
Yep.
I like colorful artwork a lot.
Number
I like
5
that it stands out.
Number 5, right?
Yes. My number 5 is Rage Against the Machine. You already saw it?
Yes.
The self-titled album. I like iconic images, I guess.
Yes.
And this one is taking an iconic image, you know, the monk protests, and making it an album cover, which is controversial, but at the same time, like it really shows what they were trying to do, like the political messages, and it goes with their music well. Yeah, I just really like this album. It's simple, but it's powerful and it's memorable. Yeah, so
absolutely.
That's my number 5.
My number 5, I don't have the list up, is The Sword, Age of Winters.
Hey.
And it was either this one or the one up on the wall. So I don't need to explain anything. This album art is awesome.
Yeah, those two are definitely the best, I think.
I really, really, really like Warp Riders, but it's a completely different theme. Like they went more with like a space travel.
It was sci-fi.
It was a concept album.
Mm-hmm.
So
Like you said, we prefer fantasy to sci-fi.
yeah,
So
yeah. So yeah, Age of Winters is awesome.
going to my number 4, this is by a band called Baroness, and I could have chosen pretty much any of their albums. All of their albums really are done by this one artist. I don't have his name, but he is an amazing artist.
Yes.
And does amazing work. I chose the Red Album, and all their albums, just to show you how like artwork based they are. All their albums are just named after color.
Yes.
So they're just known as the Red Album, the Yellow and Black Album.
Isn't there a green?
The green and the purple is the newest one, and I chose this one because red's my favorite color. So it's like that's really the only.
Yeah, Baroness is kind of like a more prog version of Mastodon, I would say.
So if you know who Mastodon is, you understand that perfectly.
I mean, you should know who Mastodon is. Mastodon's
should.
awesome.
And Baroness is a great band anyway, but then their album artwork is just amazing. So number 4, that's the Red Album.
Okay. My number 4 is another classic. It's called Led Zeppelin 4.
Hey, we have that one up there too.
Yeah, we do actually. We got that
In the
at
corner.
Half Price Books. This is actually a really interesting album cover for me personally because I feel like if I were to just say, hey, pick the best album covers, I would not pick that one. But when you listen to the album and listen to all the classic songs on there, with possibly the most classic hard rock song of all time on that album, Stairway to Heaven, the image on the album cover just represents so much more to people that have experienced the album.
Right. If you were just looking at it as aesthetically, how pleasing is this?
Yeah.
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 But if you were looking at it as like, I associate it with all these things.
It represents something at this point.
So in this one, the iconic part of it's kind of seeping more into the
Yes.
personal enjoyment.
Yeah. So that's why I put it on there every time I see it, I'm not even like the biggest Zeppelin fan of all time or anything like that, but like it's just it is what it is.
Yeah, even for me, I was trying to really avoid the whole iconic thing. Like, it's important, and that's why it's on the list. But even it still made my number 11.
Yeah.
Zeppelin 4.
That was the one album that I
Yeah.
was like, I have to make the exception because it just did. It actually like made me think like that album's so freaking good.
Yeah.
My number 3 is American 4. The Man Comes Around. Johnny Cash's last album.
Oh, awesome.
Um,
That's surprising.
it's the album cover. I mean,
Really?
I wouldn't even say that I like love every song on that album, or even like could remember every song on that album.
Right.
Hurt obviously is a great song, and everyone knows that one.
Sure.
But that album cover, like I'll always remember that album cover.
Absolutely.
It's so crazy, different, and again, I like simplicity. I like iconic imagery, and that's just Cash and then his face, and yeah, it's just perfect.
Yeah, I think that's kind of crazy because you usually you don't normally go for minimalist stuff, and this is pretty minimal, but it's great.
Yeah, we'll see with my last 2. Maybe I change it up.
Yeah, sure. My number 3 is probably not a big surprise to you, but I was actually pretty surprised to see it. It was Metallica's Kill 'Em All.
Yeah,
That's it's difficult because Metallica is our favorite band probably of all time. It's the band that really got us interested and made us want to look into other bands, and it's what kicked off everything for us. And their first 4 to 5 albums are just insanely good, and the album art for all of those albums are very, very good. And it was very, very hard for me to pick between Ride the Lightning, Master of Puppets, and Kill 'Em All. But I felt like Ride the Lightning, I felt like the lettering was super, super impressive. It was very pronounced and stuck out very well. But for the most part, the background wasn't super crazy. Master of Puppets is crazy. It has the puppeteer hands on it and the tombstones on it. And it looks phenomenal. But I thought Kill 'Em All, when you look at it and you see how long that band's been going and where they are now, and them just releasing another album, like seeing where they started, it's shocking how very basic but controversial that album cover could be for the time. It was like, okay, well, I'm having a hard time picking between all these, and then I looked at that one and I was like, well, you know, the cover just represents them so perfectly. Like they would pick something that's controversial to get your attention, and then they would keep you there with having just really, really great music. And on top of that, it has the best bass solo of all time. And I'm a bassist, so I love that stuff. So Metallica's Kill 'Em All is number 3.
Can't argue with that one. My number 2 is by that band Mastodon that you said everyone should know. We don't actually have that one. We have a couple of Mastodon albums up on the wall.
We need that
but
one.
the one that I chose is Leviathan. I think it's the best artwork of their album covers.
Okay.
I like the story along with it because they do concept albums sort of too.
Yeah.
And this one, the theme was Moby Dick. So it's got the whale on the cover. It's got, again, this one is a more detailed one. This one's not minimalist. Really,
No, not at all.
At all. But very striking artwork. Again, colorful. I like colorful too.
Yes.
I like everything. I mean, it's like when it comes to artwork, there's not a lot of artwork that I don't like. 'Cause
Absolutely.
It really turns me off.
Yeah.
There's just some that I like more than others.
Sure.
So, I mean, it goes from like Johnny Cash, like the black and white, to this, which is super colorful and like hand drawn, crazy artwork. But I like this one because I actually like this one because I feel like it's the most clean. I feel like their other ones maybe get a little more complicated and I like them less. But Leviathan I really like.
One thing about this album too that I love is that it kind of looks almost like oil painted, like the background of it, and it just looks very free flowing. I love that it's not very, very strict and very calculated, and that album is just so good.
Absolutely. That was my number 2.
All right, my number 2 is my rap album that I have to put on here because I love rap so much. It's Logic's Under Pressure. And this is actually an album Eddie hasn't heard yet, but I've listened to it probably in the past 6 months, and I love it because this guy's really, really, really good. He's relatively new. I think he just got big probably about a year or two ago, but he puts a lot of emphasis on his album art, and that's one thing that really, really sticks out to me because when I was looking into all this stuff, I was thinking, I'm obviously going to pick a couple rappers to throw in there. Like there's got to be some great album art out there for rappers. And I'm sure I missed a bunch of it because I'm not like a diehard rap fan or anything like that. But there are stuff that like, I really like. But this album art in particular, I was like, that's not the one.
That's when you pulled up.
Oh no. If you're on Wikipedia, it's farther down. But this art in particular, I just really, really like it has like a graffiti look to it. And it's just a portrait of himself. And I just really, really like it. I like that it's different. I like that he himself looks very different and portrays that shamelessly. And how he used art as his album art. So it's like crazy that it's like two different things coming
Yeah,
together.
he used street art as his album art.
Yeah, and just seeing like graffiti come together in such a cool way, it's like you don't see that a lot nowadays, especially in like mainstream stuff. So, Logic Under Pressure. If you haven't heard it, you should go look into it. It's really good.
My number 1 is the better Metallica album art.
Sure.
And when we actually do, and we another one we have back here, and that's And Justice for All.
I'm really surprised this is your number 1.
I really, really, really like this album art.
Apparently.
I think it's the best Metallica album art. I like it more than Master of Puppets or any of those other ones.
Okay.
And it's just another one that's, when I think of album art, it comes to my head.
Sure.
It's
Very, very unique.
It's very unique. It's very clean. It's very memorable. I don't know. I have like 3 words to describe art stuff, so I just keep using them.
Yep.
But
You're doing a great job of it.
It's pretty. It's got white and gray.
Yeah.
You're not lying right now.
It's got the ropes and justice, and the scales are broken.
And that's my number 1.
And that's why I like it. And Justice for All, that's my number 1. I just really, really like, whenever I think of album artwork, that's the one that comes to my head.
That's cool. I never knew that. Learn something new every day.
Yeah, you go.
My number 1 shouldn't be surprising to you. It's Mastodon's Crack the Sky.
You must have been really mad when I was talking all that shit about Mastodon artwork.
No, I don't take you seriously anymore. Crack the Sky is just amazing. There was kind of a time where I kind of fell out of listening to music, and there just wasn't anything out there that really impressed me. And I think we had just heard Blood and Thunder. So we had just heard of Mastodon, and around that time, they were just getting ready to release Crack the Sky.
Mm-hmm.
And I told you, oh man, we really need to get this. And then you said, oh, we should really start collecting records. So that was like one of the first, if not the first vinyl that we bought individually, like new. And that album looks crazy good. We actually have it on the wall somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
But it's just a beautiful album cover, and it's the first, or not the first one, but it was the first real concept album that I listened to from start to finish and was like affected by it. Like that doesn't really happen with me a lot, where I feel like, oh my god, like that's crazy. But hearing how they write about how, you know, that a lot of like personal things go into their songs, but they use a lot of metaphor. Like they play around with a lot of metaphors and things with their music to relate other things to their personal situations. And then they have small documentaries out there where they explain how the album art was specifically made to incorporate all the stories that are told in the album.
Mm-hmm.
Just the love and time that they put into this album and all their albums. I mean, I think they put that much effort into just about all their albums. And but this one in particular, it hit everything for me. It's very colorful. It's very well done. Like it doesn't look sloppy at all. The font looks amazing. There's a little bit of everything in it.
There's a bear on it.
There is. And it's just a phenomenal album, and the art makes something that's already what I think is like a masterpiece. It makes it better. And yeah, it's probably going to be my favorite artwork forever. So Mastodon's Crack the Sky.
Very cool. I knew we were each going to have a Mastodon, at least one, and I knew we were each going to have at least one Metallica. It's weird.
It's a given.
Good that we chose different ones. It's funny that we chose.
Wasn't expecting The Sword to be the exact same album. That's the only one that we doubled up on.
And we both, it was down to those two,
Mm-hmm.
Age of Winters or Gods of the Earth. And yep. So different on most things, but we come together on a couple things.
Yeah.
So that was our top 10 list of favorite album covers of all time. We definitely, I know you're already thinking, why don't you have all these albums on the wall behind you if you're so great?
Our crowd is very judgmental.
If you really like these albums that much and you have these for art, then why don't you put them up there, you idiot? Well, we're trying. It's like a thing to spend money on.
Eddie, calm down.
Well, I gotta defend myself against these idiots.
You're not idiots. We love you.
Admittedly, I made up most of that in my head. I don't know that anyone said that, but yeah, I definitely do want to get all these albums because like we really like them. But I also hadn't been thinking about this. We hadn't sat down and made lists of like our top 10 favorite.
Oh no.
Album covers. We were kind of just buying randomly. Like, oh, this is at Half Price Books for $5. Let's get this. So now that we have these lists, I want to get these.
Yeah, absolutely.
Of
So that's the end of that subject and the end of the show.
episode 2, Crossing the Line. We will be back at this again in 2 weeks with another topic thingies.
Well, we'll be back next week, next Friday at 7 p.m., playing our second installation of Halo.
Yep, we did that last week. Remember, every other week we're going to be playing video games together instead of doing this show. This show is only every 2 weeks. And we have been playing Halo, so that's the plan right now, is to play more Halo next Friday.
So, yeah, we're going to try, at least this is the idea for right now, we're going to try to play through the whole Halo series together because it's cooperative for most of it, I think.
I already had some highlights in the first one, including the old double
God.
loops.
Yeah.
And that'll be going up on YouTube at some point, so if you don't know what we're talking about, you'll be able to see that at
Oh,
some
you'll
point.
know.
Also looking to get, at some point, some board game play in, but we don't know exactly when that'll be yet, but that will be happening on the channel at some point. So,
Yeah.
And we don't know exactly what game it'll be. We don't know
Right
when.
now, we're kind of at the end of the school and all that stuff. So the thing is we're just trying to get through the next couple weeks, and then after that, we're going to straighten out the schedule more, and both with the Twitch channel and with uploading videos to YouTube.
Absolutely.
So, with that being said, thank you so much for joining us on Crossing the Line. We love you all. Thank you for joining.
Don't forget to follow the channel if you haven't followed already.
Yes, follow the Twitch channel, follow the YouTube channel, follow our Twitters at StartSpaceCast and at StartSpaceTony. Follow our Facebook at facebook.com/StartSpacePodcast. I checked that today. And yeah, we're going to post on all those things. Please follow the channel down here. And if you follow, we will send you a link to have you join our Discord server so that you can hang out with us, play games, possibly play Overwatch with us,
Yeah, and
or set up
it's a
game
pretty
nights.
open. It's a pretty open server as far as you don't necessarily have to use it just to talk to us. You can use it to talk to other people who are in
Yes.
this channel who you maybe you're on at 1 a.m. and you're looking for somebody to play a game with, and somebody else is on there. So,
Yep.
So that's a cool little thing to have as well.
Absolutely.
And then also make sure if you're interested, you can turn on those notifications so that you know when we go live. So that you'll get an email when we go live, and you can also check out the schedule to see when we're going to be streaming next. When's our next stream supposed to be?
I believe Monday. Monday at. It's probably going to be at night again, so that people can watch it.
Okay, so it looks like it'll probably be on Monday. We also tweet out before we go live. So if you don't have those notifications, then we'll also do that.
Yep.
We look forward to seeing you then. Thanks for joining us, everybody, and have a great day.